Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange, and today I'm so excited to bring you my most anticipated horror and thriller books for 2021. This specifically is covering the first half of the year, so January through July. And I gotta say, it's a really strong start to the year. Normally, all the good horror titles come out in the fall, and there's probably some really good ones coming, but they haven't been announced yet. And yeah, I'm just honestly very excited about the books I'm about to talk about. As I mentioned, I'm going to be talking about not only horror books, but thriller books, because I am getting back into that genre as well. And yeah, I'm excited here. So let me start by saying that this is all going to be based off of North American release dates, and those of course are subject to change. I am going to have information down in the description box if you want to add those books to Goodreads or request them on Amazon or anything like that. So all that being said, let's get into the books themselves. First, let's start with March, and we have The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. And this follows a documentary filmmaker who is obsessed with a village where all the residents disappeared, including her grandmother's family. And so she takes a group of friends and fellow crewmates to go and film and hopefully discover the secrets behind the village and what actually happened to all of them. However, once they get there, strange things start to happen. Their equipment starts to break, people disappear, and they start to wonder if they are not alone. Now, this is a book that is classified as a thriller, but from the synopsis, it definitely sounds like it's going to lean into horror, or at least follow a lot of the horror tropes. And I just think that it sounds like an amazing premise. I love a good mystery. Specifically, mysterious disappearances are some of my favorite things to read about. And this book is described as the Blair Witch Project meets Midsummer, and that just sounds fantastic. So definitely one that I'm hoping to read and review for you all in the new year. Next in March, we have Later by Stephen King, which follows a young boy with special abilities. His single mother begs him to keep his abilities a secret. However, he is not sure if he wants to follow his mother's advice when he ends up meeting a detective who needs his help to track down a killer. I am really excited about this one from the synopsis. You might know that I'm actually a little bit hit or miss with Stephen King, so his books don't automatically make my most anticipated list, but this one is definitely one I want to check out. I am finding that I really do enjoy books about kids with special abilities, and I really did enjoy The Institute, so I am finding that I'm enjoying some of his newer stuff, and it's definitely one that, again, I'm hoping to read and review because it's going to be super buzzy and it sounds like a lot of fun. So killers, special abilities, I am all there for it. Moving on to April, we have You Love Me by Carolyn Kepnes, which is the third book in her thriller series. And this, of course, follows the young stalker Joe. And in this book, he is working at a local library. I am a huge fan of the original story You that got turned into a Netflix show. And I think most people are at least aware of it, whether or not they read the book or watched the TV show. And I'm just really excited to get back to him. I love a good stalker story, and I'm definitely hoping to do this one on audio because the narrator does a fantastic job, and I just love the fact that you read from the perspective of the stalker himself. It's something I really enjoy, and yeah, I'm just hoping this one will be a lot of fun. Also in April, we have Near the Bone by Christina, which is about a woman who is held captive by a man on an isolated mountainside. They believe they are alone until they come across a body of a dead fox, and they soon realize that there are strangers nearby, and tensions ensue because this man is not too happy about having other people come across him and his woman. I am primarily putting this on this list because I'm a huge fan of the author. I of course read and loved her other horror book, The Ghost Tree, this year, so I'm definitely interested in what she's going to come out with next. And I'm also a huge fan of stories involving people that are held captive. I love hostage situations and all of that. So I'm very curious to see how this one will turn out because I have high hopes that it again could show up on my favorites list. Then we have The Girl Who Died by Ragnar Jónasson, and this is a translated book from an Icelandic author, and it follows a young woman who is struggling after the suicide of her father. And so when she sees an advertisement to go and be a teacher for two girls in an isolated village, she decides that it's the perfect time to have a fresh start. However, when she gets there, she finds that the villagers are really unfriendly, the weather is terrible and brutal and cold, and she starts to imagine that she is hearing ghost sounds, or perhaps is not actually imagining them. This one is classified as a thriller, and I have high hopes. I've read this author before, and I love that he does an amazing job of creating a really good cold atmosphere. So I'm definitely hoping to read this while the weather is still cold, and again, it's translated, which is something I don't read enough of but would like to change. And yeah, this premise just sounds fantastic. Then we have A Whisper Down the Lane by McLeod Chapman, and this follows a man who as a child falsely accused his teacher of being involved in cult rituals. This was in the middle of the satanic panic of the 1980s, and so now as an adult he is dealing with the aftermath. He's trying to move on and have his own family. However, he discovers the body of a dead rabbit that appears to be ritually sacrificed, and so he gets pulled back into his past. I think the story is told over a few timelines, and I'm a huge fan of cult horror. So if there are ritual killings in this book, I am very excited for it, which is a weird thing to say. But if you follow my channel, you know my taste. I love things dark and creepy, and this one definitely promises that. So I'm really looking forward to trying out this one for myself. Now, jumping over to July, we have The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix, which follows 6 girls that all survived their own massacres and then came together to form this support group. However, they are possibly being stalked, and someone is possibly now coming for them. I love the idea of this because I'm a huge fan of this final girl trope, and especially books that really play with this. I've heard that this is an homage to the classic slasher films of the various decades, and if you know Grady Hendrix's work, he is so smart with his horror. He really gets into meta places where he is very self-aware of what he is doing, and so I know he's going to approach this topic from a really smart feminist lens, and I am just really looking forward to trying this one out. I have in the past been a bit hit or miss with his work, but if there ever was a synopsis that sounded like it was for me, this is definitely that, and I'm very much looking forward to checking it out. Also in July, we have Survive the Night by Riley Sager. This follows 2 college students that agree to drive home from campus using a rideshare program together. One of them is struggling with the grief because they've recently lost their best friend who was killed by the campus killer, the serial killer that is out on the loose. And then the other one is going home to care for their sick father. However, when they're out in the road on this isolated highway, they start to talk, and Charlie begins to worry that the other person, Josh, is possibly not telling the truth. His story just doesn't really seem to make sense, and soon Charlie begins to worry that they might be in the car with the campus serial killer. I love the setup of this one. I am very excited for it. I love a good serial killer story, and the idea of being out on an isolated road definitely rings true of a lot of my other favorite horror books, so I'm definitely excited for this one. I should mention that while I'm calling this horror, it is, yes, technically thriller, but Riley Sager always writes the kind of thrillers that appeal to people like myself that lean into the horror genre. So I am very excited for this one. He's definitely one of my favorite thriller authors, and he has yet to have disappointed me. So I think this one has high potential to show up on my favorites at the end of the year. Then we have Fallen by Linda Castillo, which is the 13th book in the Kate Burkholder series, which follows a police chief in a small town near an Amish community. In this book, we follow a woman who is leaving the plain life. However, she has some really big secrets that are possibly going to put Kate Burkholder in danger. Now, this is a series that I've been reading for years, and it is technically a companion series, so you could start with this one if you want to. Basically, you follow the same group of characters, but each book has a self-contained mystery. It's not as gritty as some of the other things I read. In fact, I consider this to be more of a comfort read, but I love the characters. I find the mysteries to be really engaging, and I just cannot get enough of this series. So I'm really excited that there is a 13th book coming out this year. Finally, we have a thriller called 16 Horses by Buchanan, and this is set in a small town where they discover that 16 horse heads have been buried. They call in a forensic team to investigate. They are concerned that the soil is possibly contaminated because the residents of the town are starting to get sick, and with that, they are starting to become paranoid. And with the uncovering of these horse heads, they start to find out that there's actually a larger situation happening with a lot of other crimes being unveiled. And so this book is described as a literary thriller, a little bit different than things that I've read before, but it definitely has an intriguing premise, and I just think that it's going to be really eerie and creepy, and I'm hoping that's going to have some good character work, because that's often what draws me into a good mystery thriller. And yeah, just something a little bit different, which is usually what I'm looking for, especially mid-year. I just kind of need something that will surprise me and be different than anything else I'm reading at the moment. So those are my top 10 most anticipated horror and thriller books for 2021. I would love to hear down below, what books are you most excited for, whether they be books that I talked about or something else. You definitely can help me out by putting other books on my radar, because whenever I finish filming these videos, it happens every single time. As soon as I'm done and I'm trying to edit this video, I'm going to hear about other books that I wish I had included, but that's just how it goes. So let me know what you are excited for. If it's something new, I would love to put it on my own list and check it out as well. Also, if you're a fan of science fiction, I hope that you watch my most anticipated science fiction video for 2021, because I'm talking about 15 books that I'm also really excited for, but of course on the SFF side of things. And if you're new to my channel, consider subscribing. I read a lot of horror, thriller, science fiction, and fantasy. And if you're watching this, please give the video a thumbs up, helps with visibility. Also share it around online, hit the notification bell. Otherwise, I will talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.